As of today, November 13th, 2017, I have gone 100% independent. I have left both SUSE and Network World and will now be publishing all of my content on my own. This is a fairly huge step for me, a monumentous step for me, a very nerve-wracking but very exciting and very happy step for me. And I wanted to walk all of you through exactly what all of this means. So a little background. I've been writing for Network World, technology articles mostly about Linux, open source, free software for over 5 years now, since the summer of 2012, which seems like a lifetime ago. In that time, I have written, I have no idea how many articles. I didn't actually count the number of articles, but I counted the number of words. I actually went through and counted the total number of words that I wrote in every single article, and it's more words than are in The Hobbit and the first Lord of the Rings books, The Fellowship of the Rings, combined. That is a ton of words that I all wrote for Network World. And that's just amazing to me that I wrote that much. I had no idea I wrote that much. That was all about nerdy stuff, all about Linux. I wrote that many words just about Linux and open source. I want to say a big thanks to my two editors over at Network World, Colin, my original editor that brought me on board and helped me out in the early days, and my final editor right before I left, Michelle. Both of you did a fantastic job, and a huge high five from me to both of you. And SUSE, I've been working at for about 4 years now, all doing marketing work. And if you've been to a lot of Linux conferences, there's at least a good odds you saw a handful of presentations from me. I've done a lot of SUSE technology related presentations over the last 4 years. I've written a lot of parody music videos. My favorite being the Uptime Funk video that came out. That was a very fun one. Written some poetry, which seriously we did Linux advertising poetry. It's because why not, right? And just a ton of other stuff. I've been working all in the marketing department. For a time, I controlled the social media accounts for SUSE, but not anytime recently. And mostly I just produced a lot of content and written a lot of things for it, and it was very exciting. But that all is changing today. So as of right now, I am no longer working for Network World or SUSE. What does that mean? Exactly what does it mean for me, for the show and everything going forward? Well, the first and biggest thing is that now I have a ton of extra time to actually dedicate towards this show, the Lunduke Show, my journalism work, the books I write, all the extra side projects I do. Over the last 10 years. I think I've been podcasting since 2006, so I guess 11 plus years, and writing articles most of that time. As I'd get started on projects, let's say an article or video series, what would inevitably happen, at least, 1 out of 3 times, is that I'd be working on something and I'd be excited about something, and then something would come along out of the left field and I'd be like, whoa, and I'd have to focus on that because it would be something to do with the main job that made me money and put food on my table and kept a roof over my head, all that stuff. For a time, I was an executive at video game companies. I was working in marketing at SUSE, writing for Network World, doing all sorts of different things. And since those were my main sources of income, if they had needs, I kind of had to focus on those things, which was a real bummer for me. Because while those jobs were great, I wanted to focus on the things I was the most passionate about, which is a lot of this stuff. Now I can. Now this is my full-time job. And if you think about it, if you think about the vast amount of videos that I've made just this year alone, it's pretty intense, plus articles. Now what if that becomes my full-time job? And if you think about it in terms of, oh my gosh, Brian was working 40 hours a week over here at SUSE and then doing a whole bunch of extra work over here at Network World, and then then the Lunduke Show and all the related stuff was really actually getting the leftover time. And it was a lot of leftover time because I was focusing on it. I knew I wanted to grow it to this point. But now, all that time, it's all right here. This is huge. This is huge for me. It's going to allow me to wrap up a whole bunch of projects that I've started recently, a couple that I'd started, in years past, but I just have never had the time to finish up, plus focus on improving the quality of the content that I'm putting out and putting out more of it. And that's awesome and exciting for me. The other thing it means, the other really big thing is I am now 100% independent. Nobody pays my paycheck except for you. I've got Patreon supporters, I've got advertising revenue, I've got a handful of really amazing sponsors that all tend to, share my core beliefs in free software and open source and cool technology. And because of that, I can speak more freely now than I've ever been able to speak in the past. Now, realistically, to give credit where credit's due, in my work over at Network World, they never censored me. But on the same token, there was a lot of articles that I wanted to write that really weren't in the scope of what Network World over at IDG wanted to do. It wasn't the way they wanted to present themselves. It wasn't the topics that they wanted to cover. But now I can. Now, not only can I say what I'm thinking 100% of the time, which was mostly the case before, but there are a few instances where it kind of bummed me out that I couldn't really say my true feelings on things. But now I can cover a lot of the topics that maybe would have been a little more off limits for me before. This is so freeing for me. This is something that I've been working really hard to get to a point where I could accomplish this for quite a long time. And now it is finally here. Hugely, hugely exciting. How this is going to work going forward. I've been redesigning the main page over at Lunduke.com. When I write an article, it will go up on Lunduke.com. If I deem something important enough to have an article, that means it's important enough to have a video. So I'm going to produce a video for it, which means if you follow along at Lunduke.com, anytime you see a post, it will be an article and a video, unless it's a video like the regular Linux Thursday video. Those don't really warrant an article, but the rest of them, even this video, if you're watching this right now, has a little article to go along with it. So you can have quotes, you can find links, all that good stuff. Fantastic. So they'll be linking back and forth to each other. This also means I get to be more myself than I've ever been. I'm not representing any companies. For the last 4 years, I have represented SUSE, which means at least to a certain extent, I have to keep that in the back of my head. Like, how are things I'm going to say going to make an employer look, right? I don't have to think about that anymore. Now I can just open my mouth and let Lundukiness fly out. It's fantastic. The other thing that this means, so I have been an elected member of the OpenSUSE board for a while now. My seat comes up for re-election this coming, I believe, February. I will not be seeking re-election to the OpenSUSE board in February, and we'll probably be looking to find a new home Linux-wise and operating system-wise. Not because OpenSUSE is a bad system, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been really focused on OpenSUSE for 5 years or so, and it's time for me to look elsewhere. It's time for me to expand my horizons, to take a look around and decide, what I want my home operating system to be for the next couple of years at least, and potentially what community to invest my time into. So that's something that I'm going to be figuring out probably along with a lot of you over the next several months. Until then, I will continue to serve on the OpenSUSE board, and I will do a good job at it because it's a great group of people and they deserve that. Now, this morning, SUSE issued a press release about all this. I'm just going to go ahead and read it for you now. Nuremberg, Germany, November 13th, 2017. Today, SUSE announced that Brian Lunduke is leaving the organization. A longtime Linux industry journalist and social media figure, Brian joined the SUSE team in December of 2013 and was instrumental in helping the company greatly increase brand awareness and social media following. At SUSE, Brian served in a variety of roles, including social media manager and most recently as technology and community evangelist. Having used those roles to successfully contribute to SUSE's growth and momentum, Brian is now looking to return to the world of journalism and pursue new projects and opportunities. And then I have a quote inside their press release. Having the opportunity to work with and build the SUSE brand, one of the oldest in the free software and Linux world, has been an amazing experience, Lunduke said. I'm talking about myself in the third person quoting myself from an article, from a press release about me. It's a very weird moment. I look forward to seeing what the SUSE engineers do in the future, but now is the right time for me to refocus my attention on my passion for journalism. So that's pretty exciting. And it really has been a fun ride. I can't say anything bad at the moment. I really can't. It has been a fun ride. I've learned a lot from doing work for both SUSE and Network World. I've become a better writer in the process, and I've made a lot of great friends. And it's been a ton of fun. It really was pretty cool that I got to, in many ways, really push forward a lot of the marketing and presentation and public communication about one of the oldest Linux brands that there is. I mean, SUSE's been around longer than Red Hat even, right? So, I mean, it's almost as old as Slackware. Not quite, but getting close. And that's pretty cool that I got to play in that playground, you know? But it's time to move on. It's time to move forward. It's time to focus on the Lunduke Show. It's time to focus on the articles I write. It's time to really dig in and have a whole lot of fun with this. And it is all of it is thanks to all of you. The supporters over at Patreon who helped to kind of pull this show together. This wouldn't have been possible without your support over at patreon.com. That was so... It's been so beneficial to have you there, to have you supporting me. It not only has it helped financially to do things like buy lights and cameras for the studio, but it also gave me some sort of a confidence boost that I wasn't just speaking into a little camera into the void. There was people that wanted me to keep doing it, and they were encouraged by it, and it was both humbling and gratifying and an ego boost all at the same time. Like, it's this very weird, tumultuous cauldron of crazy emotions that go into it, but it helped me to be pushed forward to realize that this really is something great. This really is something that I should be doing. The companies that have supported this show since the beginning, System 76 and Pogo, thank you guys. It has meant so much, not just to have, again, the financial support of keeping the lights on and investing into this show for the travel and everything else, but to have that support, that camaraderie, that advice of companies that I can turn to and talk to about things related to the show has been absolutely invaluable. So I truly appreciate it. And even those of you who watch the show but have never contributed financially, you still have helped to spread the word about this show. We're growing like gangbusters here. I mean, just the last month, 2,000-3,000+ new subscribers across the various channels, and that's been continuing every single month. We're growing like crazy. And it's all thanks to you. You've been spreading the word. You've been watching the shows. You've been contributing content to the shows. You've been sending in questions. You've been sending in topics, and it helps tremendously. I can't thank you enough. All of you, bottom of my heart. Seriously, all of you. Fantastic. I am super excited right now. Now it's Monday. It's Monday morning when I'm typing this, when I'm writing this. I already typed I'm not writing this. My God, my brain is absolutely... Thank you. Thank you to everybody. And now let's get back to making some shows.